You're watching the MBA Wire with Mateo Chang. This episode is brought to you by Access MBA, EduSync, and Philadelphia Consulting. What's up, peeps and fam? This is Mateo. I just wanted to make a quick announcement. I've partnered up with the amazing people at Access MBA. If you don't know about them, it's time for you to get to know about them, especially if you're serious about applying for an MBA program. Access MBA, www.accessmba.com, 2 C's, 2 S's. Go check out their website. Now, Access MBA provides events worldwide where they bring together tons of the top MBA programs in schools, not just full-time, but part-time and even executive programs, and they hold these events where they can attend future students, potential candidates, and applicants, and clarify any of your doubts, give you much more information, in-depth information, and give you the chance to do some networking. All right. They also provide one-on-one meetings, so that's kind of cool. I need to let you know now, for all my India listeners, Access MBA will be in New Delhi on February 15th, Mumbai on February 17th, and Bangalore on February 21st. We only have about a week and a half before all of that happens, so go on the website, register. For my Brazil listeners, Access MBA will be in São Paulo on March 10th, in Rio de Janeiro on March 13th. I will be there at the São Paulo event, so if you do go, definitely come by, say hi, let's take a selfie together, or dance in the middle of the floor. I'm just kidding. Or ask me any of the questions that you want to ask, all right? All right, let's get started with this episode. See you in a bit. What's up, citizens of the MBA Wire? Welcome back to another episode. This is your host, Mateo Chang, and today I am extremely excited because I get to interview two students from a brand new school on this podcast. It's not a brand new school in reality, just for my podcast, but I have two students from Oxford SAID MBA program. With us, we have Yuli Kim, who's from São Paulo, and Vitor Knaip, who's from Rio de Janeiro. So we have two Brazilians who are over at Oxford trying to study and trying to change the world. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? Tell our listeners a little bit about what you guys are doing, what you're studying, and how you plan to impact the community and the world around you.
My name is Yuri. Actually, it's pronounced Yuri. It's not pronounced as it's spelled.
So it's not Yuli, it's just Yuri.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I worked in fashion for the past 4 years. If people know São Paulo, I worked in Mbaw, which is a big Korean center community.
Yes.
And I worked there for the past 4 years, and I decided to pursue an MBA. It was something that I wanted to do since I was a bachelor, and I had the opportunity, and here I am.
Nice, fantastic. You did your bachelor's in what?
I did my bachelor in business.
Okay.
So not really that imaginative.
Well, it makes sense though, especially through the line of with the textile industry, with the textile center in São Paulo, which is Mbaw. A lot of Korean, the younger generation of the Korean society there, they either go into business or into fashion. So yeah, that's definitely along the lines. But an MBA is not as common in that area. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I wanted to shift careers. So that's why I decided to come here and get to know a lot of people from different places and different cultures, and also Oxford is such a beautiful city with a lot of opportunity, so I'm really grateful.
Nice. Yeah, I want to get into the daily life at Oxford, but before we do, Vitor, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, guy from Rio.
Cool. Well, Mateo, I'm actually, I don't have a traditional background, I guess. I did corporate law in university, and my last activities involved founding a bank in the slums in Rio. In between, those like graduating law in the law school and working in slums. I ran a shipping school. I founded an arbitration chamber, the first in the Southern Hemisphere. I lived in Portugal, and I studied a bunch of things that I don't remember. And one of those is French, basically. I can't speak French nowadays. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm working on a startup idea involving primary education.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can talk about it later, I'm really tired of hearing about technology. It seems that everything involves technology, and we are missing the soft touch. And and I'm telling you because I have a fintech. So
interesting. Well, okay, so your business is around, it revolves around technology, both in fintech and possibly your new startup in education. So it's hard to avoid the technology conversation. Yeah,
technology is great, but we need to stop thinking, trying to allocate already built technology into all in every space. You know, like we have to do a step back and think about the principles of stuff.
True.
Sometimes a really simple solution is better than a fancy technology.
That's true. I'd like to hear what examples you might have for that in a little bit. Before we do, I'd like to get into, like, we always start off an interview with motivational quotes. Just a motivational quote that you live by that's helped you through some of your tough times. What are your motivational quotes?
Mine is very unknown, I feel. It's from Michelle Ogundine. I'm sorry if I'm not saying it properly. She was the former editor-in-chief of Elle Decoration in the UK, and said rules are overrated, but respect is everything. So I feel like that applies to even personal life and professional life. We do have to respect because everything is person-based. Even technology, you have a person behind it. So I feel it just applies to every aspect in your life. I think it's just a philosophy of life. So whenever you are with someone, you just think about how to treat them as you want to be treated and help people even though they're not helping you. I just feel, it's present in every moment in my life.
Yeah, it sounds like give without having any expectations of receiving anything back. So that's actually very, very beautiful. That's very true, even in entrepreneurship. So I think, and in this day and age with social media, I mean, when it's kind of what I do with the MBA Wire is just I'm trying to give out as much information as possible and inspiration. I don't really expect anything except maybe the occasional email saying, "Hey, your podcast really helped me." I love that. I get that, maybe once every couple of months, sometimes a little bit more, but it's fantastic. It's a great feeling. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Vitor, what about you? What's your motivational quote?
I'm one of those people that are saying just back to you, hey, thank you for doing this.
Oh.
So,
thank you.
My motivational quote. That's true. It's true. Well, the quote I live by is something. It goes like this: interested people are the most interesting ones. And this is actually not something I took from someone. I certainly I haven't come up with this by myself. I read a lot, especially when I was doing a career jump from corporate law to business. I was really confused. I was about like 23, 24. One of the things that got my attention is I read a book about how CEOs, Forbes 500 CEOs, had in common, right? And they would look for new experiences and leverage those. They would like reflect on those and learn from those and apply those pieces of learning in their life. There you go. Interested people are the most interesting ones. And the way I like to think about this is these are individuals you want to share projects and have a beer with. They are friends with wildly different people, do amazing stuff in their spare time, and travel to exquisite places. They learn from experiences, and they are inspiring inspired. At the end of the day, I want to be one of those people.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. Interested people are interesting people. Yeah, that's true. Because then you always have that exchange of value, right? There's a valuable exchange between the two people, whether it's knowledge, whether it's experience, whether it's like you said, inspiration. So that is a great motivational quote to live by.
Thank you.
Very nice. Let's rewind. Let's take a trip back to the time before your MBA programs. One of the main things about this podcast is to really touch base on some of the difficulties and challenges that everyone faces during their MBA application journey. What were your challenges, like, just personally? Was it like did you guys have difficulties with convincing your parents, or was it like the GMAT? Can you guys talk about that?
For me, there were two things. There is always the GMAT factor. Like, I don't believe anyone who tell me that GMAT it's easy. It's not. It's not something about. There is, of course, the technical skills, math, and interpretation, and grammar, but also the whole psychological pressure. Because you go in there and you be like, yeah, I need 700. As I just need 700, like you think about that the whole time. And there is the time pressure also. For me, I just had to take some time off, because the more I studied, the worse my performance was. So I became too nervous, and the psychological part played a big role. So I gathered all my savings and I went to Europe for a month, and I really had to think about, do I really want it, and also why I want it. It wasn't just to get away or to live abroad, but also like to admit to myself that I am interested in the social impact space, even if I am not working on it specifically. I do believe that social impact is something that it's going to be built on businesses. It's not something that's going to be out of the business like now. So I had to admit that to myself, and it was a bit hard because it's not really, conventional, and it might not pay well. So that's all the concerns that you have, right? So those were my two biggest issues.
What was the turning point when you went to Europe and you had stopped to think about, is this what I want? What convinced you? What was that? Explain that moment. Like, what were you doing at that exact moment that you just went, let's go for it?
I don't know if there was an exact moment. I just kept thinking about even in Facebook, you go through a lot of subjects in your newsfeed, and the ones that attract me the most were, students that figure out a way to build small sleeping bags for babies so they don't die of hypothermia. So those were the things that actually sparkled and made me want to, think about how can I do it? How can I be part of it? Because essentially it is a business. You're selling a product, but you're selling a product that can change lives. So that was the thing that really got to me.
And, what do you plan on doing after your MBA? Just, what is it? What are your, let's say, your aspirations?
At this point, it's really hard for me to tell you, like, this is what I want to do. I am interested in so many things. We were talking about education and how we think that education is a lever for social mobility. So Victor and I were working on a project mapping education in a community nearby. That's one of the things, like the whole gender issue is something that I'm interested in. Having a business with a lot of impact and ethical also, which is so important and so blurry right now. I think that's also something that I'm interested in. So I have a lot of interest and I am pursuing them over the MBA. So I have no idea what that will lead me to.
No, that's good. No, I was just checking actually to see if you were doing your MBA to go back to the clothing business in Boichiro or not, and how you would apply it. But you know, it's completely natural for students to want to to just have so many opportunities and options. Because correct me if I'm wrong, both of you. While you're studying for your MBAs, doesn't it feel like every day you have like a new idea that could change the world?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Vitor? How was it for you during your application journey? Like, what were some of the difficulties you faced? How did you get through them?
Okay, so this is a tough question.
Yeah.
Because you are so focused on getting your things done, like getting your GMAT score, getting a GMAT score high enough and stuff, that you, at least I haven't give a lot of thought on what was on my way. And after this period has passed, I really don't want to get back to it. But okay, so first, the main issue was convincing people, convincing my family that I was leaving law. Okay, and every day, even now during Christmas, like my grandma would say, "Hey, Vitor could really do his exams to become a judge." Like, I don't have the profile, and I'm like 4 or 5 years away from law, and still I got this inertia to disrupt at home. But yeah, well, I studied for the GMAT while I was working, and I was running like this shipping school. We prepared people for a career in the shipping industry in Brazil. It was quite a lot of work, and the thing I started doing to discipline myself was like I got to the office at 8, so I would jump from the bed at 5. I would eat something really nutritious, and then study for an hour or like 40 minutes or half an hour. I would spend like 15 minutes. I would just put my swimsuit, go to the beach, swim a bit, just to like relieve the stress, and then go to work. And and when I got back to work around 8 or 9, I would read like 15 minutes just to get just for the discipline of doing it, because I'm not a disciplined person. But I discovered that being disciplined helped me to become even more disciplined, and actually I felt free to like focus on whatever I want. When you're not disciplined, like you may want really bad to do something, but you don't have the power of will to do that. So I found it really good, and I'll have another tip that is like I'll tell your listeners, hey guys, do the GMAT exams how many times you need. It's not a race, a short race, it's a marathon. And no matter how many times you do like mock tests at home and practice tests, it's a different environment. So if you can't face the cost of doing yet another GMAT exam, just do it. There's no one watching. No one is telling you, hey, you did 8 times, 5 times, so you're not clever enough. That's not the point, you know.
Yeah.
You read in a lot of places, hey, MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, they look at how many times you canceled your score. But honestly, if you have a high enough score, if you have the other attributes that they are looking for, this won't matter.
Yeah, I actually have a student who took this GMAT test 17 times, and 17 times, reapplied for a second year, and got into a top 5 school. So I'm gonna keep it like broad, because I know that person would rather keep it, under wraps. I was the only one they confessed it to, but they were like, yeah, 17 times, but they still got into a top 5 school. So you're actually correct. There's rumors, but in the end, AdCom is not looking to see how many times you've tried. If anything, they'll see your persistence and your determination, and that will actually, be a benefit, a positive aspect rather than a negative one, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
and send him congratulations because that's so much resilience. I'm impressed.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. I mean, and that's something that you should definitely respect. I mean, the person did
Sure.
not give up. 17 times. I mean, I would accept him. I would accept him just because it was 17 times. I know I know he's not going to give up on anything he does during the NBA. So for me as a school, I would be like, hey, this guy is not going to quit.
There's a quote from Woody Allen. He says that insistence predicts 90% of success. So like determination and stuff. In entrepreneurship, we hear that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the kind of person that I would love to work with. I want those kind of person as my partners, business partners, and I want this kind of person actually as my friends. As like my girlfriend is a determined person. You can really it's enjoyable to be with people like this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And they rub off on you. And I think it's kind of curious how Yuri was talking about her psychological, it was more the difficulties were psychological for her. The pressure, the environment really affected her output on the GMAT. Whereas for you, Vitor, I think you focus more on the mechanics. You mentioned you weren't a disciplined guy, but by forcing yourself to make discipline into a habit, to doing the things little by little, making yourself make a routine, that actually helped you through, focusing on making small conquests at a time. And then when you get to the end, you're like, hey, kind of there, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, and I can tell you my scores. I did the GMAT twice, thank God. But I was willing to do it like 50 times. I don't care.
Awesome.
But I studied for the GMAT for 2 weeks, and then I got 540, which is like a terrible score, and I canceled it, of course. and then I took another 2 months, or 2 or 3 months, let's say 3 months, and got 680. So it's not a huge score, but since I trusted my story, I trusted my experience. I went with that, and again, if I couldn't do it, I would most likely try like different rounds in different schools, try the GMAT once again. Life is not an arcade mode game, right?
True.
Yeah, I feel like we get all so caught up on the GMAT score, but the standardized testing is not something absolute, and we keep on discussing this. It's not something that measures your intelligence, even though you think that it is when you're there. It's not. So you have to just remind yourself of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, on the flip side, I remember I had a student once, he had gotten a 790 on the GMAT. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it was just like missed 2 questions or something. 790 on the GMAT, 119 on the TOEFL, and he was actually one of the first ones to be invited to Harvard, Stanford, and MIT interviews. However, zero personality. Sorry, former student, but it was just. I mean, he was just very robotic. He was very just emotionless, and it was hard to connect with him on a personal level. And I'm like, look, as much as a genius he might have been, there was just no way to connect with him. How would other students? I mean, because MBAs are also a lot about networking. How are you going to connect with other students and make friendships and lifelong relationships if you are unable to make an emotional connection? So there is a balance there. It's not just about having an amazing GMAT and TOEFL score that guarantees your admittance into any school. Yeah, he got he got dinged out of all 3 schools. He didn't make it.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but yeah, your story is really powerful. That's what we see happening.
Yep. I forgot to ask Yuri, when you said that you had a lot of psychological pressure, what kept you what pushed you through that? Well, how did you maintain your poise and your calm during the test? That was just a one. I think just your tip might be something that may help a listener who is also going through the psychological pressure of the GMAT.
Oh, that's a tough question. I cannot like pinpoint one thing.
Uh-huh.
Because my score fluctuated a lot. So I got a 49 or a 48 every time for math. The only thing that was fluctuating was verbal.
Uh-huh.
And the verbal part is the last part, right? So you're already very tired. You don't want to do this anymore. So I would just like stretch, drink a lot of water, just remind myself that this is not the end of the world, and also try to engage with the people around you. So there is always someone who is there to kind of watch you and see if you need something, and just try to engage with her and talk to her to try to forget that you're in that stressful situation.
How did you guys know that your school was the right choice, was the right fit for you? I know, I mean, most students end up applying to more than one or two schools, but then they only realize which school is right for them when they've done their research. How did you guys know that your school was the right one for you?
I did. I applied to 3 schools. I was really focused on what I wanted, not as a job, but as experience. So I wanted a school that was collaborative. I did not want to be competing with everyone all the time. And I wanted to have meaningful relationships that I can count on after the MBA also.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big part for me. The social impact focus was a big part for me. So I applied to Berkeley, which I knew was very like a stretch for me. I applied to Cornell, which was in the safe range, but not exactly what I wanted. And I applied to Oxford, which it's a 1-year program, which is great. I feel 2 years outside of the job market can be a bit too much sometimes. So for me, I like Oxford was number 1, and I applied to 2 more other schools just for the sake of it. And while I was preparing for the interview at SAID Business School, I looked up things about Dean Peter Tufano, and it really attracted me coming to this school because he's the co-founder of Doorways to Dreams, which is a nonprofit similar to Banco Mare that Victor co-founded. It gives low-income households access to financial services. So that kind of says a bit about him. And also, I heard that he used to write on the board because he was a teacher at Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. But he used to write, rather than help 1,000 people make millions of dollars, let's help millions of people make $1,000. So that was really powerful to me to have someone like that as a dean and someone who thinks the same way as I do. So that was really impressive.
That's awesome. That's great. That's a great insight on like the dean, because mostly for many people it's mostly about the school, about the people. That was the first time I heard somebody say, you know, for me it was the dean that really I resonated with, I connected with. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, also to the interview that I had with Dina Domet, she was like a person that I would like to meet and talk to. And when I asked her, so you have this amazing resume, you could be in LBS, and she worked in NYU also, like you could be in any place you want, why Oxford? And she said, you know, if I wanted money, I would go anywhere else, but Oxford really has something special, and I really like it. So that just sold the school for me.
Wow. No, I always thought Oxford to be one of those hardcore, like, fully straight on disciplined schools. And now you're telling me that no, people there are just, they're not about the money. They're about the transformation. That's I'm kind of blown away by that. That's kind of cool.
I mean, to be fair, the business school is pretty new, so even the building is pretty modern. So it doesn't really go along with like the old buildings, and the system is different. So I feel we have more freedom to like start fresh.
And one of the coolest things here is that if we don't live in colleges, we have a college life. And what I mean by that is, Harry Potter with Slytherin and all those
Gryffindor.
Gryffindor, yeah. So we actually have those. Harry Potter was inspired in Oxford. Even though we have this fresh mind from the business school, we have dinner and formal dinners every once in a while in college, and which are like really old buildings with people from any area of knowledge, of all areas of knowledge, and like many PhDs and masters and really clever people. It's so intellectually engaging. And like when you look around, it seems like you're in a dream. Our exams, we have to do exams not in our classroom. We go to different buildings called examination schools, which seem like castles. We sit in like in big rooms with big paintings from previous important people, like from other times, and like we have to dress. How do we call those things? Subfusks with ties and suits, just for exams.
Wow!
So it's magical, yeah.
Yeah, we have like both the modern side and also the whole Oxford experience, which is great. If you go to examination schools dressed, you can't
wear jeans. You can't wear the clothes you would wear.
You have to have a white button down, black pants or black skirt, black shoes, and the gown and the mortar. So it's very traditional. Like people take photos of us while we were walking down the street.
Yeah, because it's very different. It's and it's I think it's great because it pays homage to the scholars of past. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I think that it maintains that very, not just traditional, but that respect to the founders and to, I want to say religion, but I would say maybe, how do you say, the customs of the school?
The legacy, maybe?
The legacy of the school, yeah. Because, I mean, that's exactly what I had in mind. And then, you were talking, I was thinking Harry Potter when you were saying that. And then you actually said, yeah, it's kind of like Harry Potter, except you guys also have the innovative side where there's a modern building. You have, a dean who's forward thinking, who's thinking about, how do we make a million people teach a million people how to make $1,000. That's incredible. I mean, that's enlightening. I think for me
it's very inspiring being here.
Yeah, and there's always some engineering student doing like a really cool product that once you meet him, you start thinking about, hey, how can I like put this in the market as a business person? And it's really easy to connect with people here. The university is top notch in everything it does. And we're just here, business people trying to do business with those stuff.
Huh. When did you realize that this Oxford was the right school for you, Vitor?
Mateo, I think you never know. I applied to 12 different schools, partially because I'm a part American and my family wanted me to go to America.
Huh.
I had to apply to around 7 schools there, 7 or 8. And the other 4, I applied here in England. So I actually was looking at cultural diversity and quants skills. I didn't think I would find the quants in Brazil as I would find here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Europe has a deeper cultural diversity than America, especially in MBAs. I have the feeling, and I can't actually prove it to you, that many of the cultural diversity in American MBA, America's MBAs, comes from people that already live in America for a while, uh, regardless, despite their families come from different countries and different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas here you see, actually, you hardly listen to hear English. You know, people actually come from widely different places. We have friends from like Mauritius Islands, from Tonga Island, um,
Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago, yeah,
Wow.
Dominican Republic, like small places spread across the world. And
Wow.
like the simplest discussions are really cool. They're really surprising. But back to your point, first I was really led by rankings. So I applied to the eight best ranked schools in America, and then I visited England, and I visited LBS, Imperial College, both in London, right, Cambridge and Oxford, and I went to interview stage in every single one of them, and I honestly liked Oxford better. Oxford was the last one I applied to,
Huh.
and then I had to I gave away some acceptances, but like once I was here in Oxford, and I realized how cool everything was, and how close to London it is. So you are able to leverage everything that London had offer you as a hub. So this became my number one. Yeah, I didn't even I didn't even go to America to visit school. Only here in UK.
Huh. You just felt it felt right as soon as you stepped on campus.
Yeah, yeah, it's super cool. I mean, Oxford has everything that you would find in a big city. Like cultural life is outstanding. Like we have the like museums here that seem like you are in Vienna.
Wow.
Like mummies and stuff.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, yeah, it's crazy. And it's free. And we don't have only one of them. We have like at least four, like international level.
Huh.
You like if you cycle through across Oxford, it's like a touristical sightseeing every single time, no matter the weather. Um, and yeah, and I'm only 1 hour away from London when I have to go to meetings, conferences, competitions, to take a flight to anywhere I want to go. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to add to that, I feel it's really important for you to figure out if you want to live in a small city or a big city, because it does make a lot of difference. When I was looking for my MBA's possible schools, people would tell me that in big cities, people just gather away, so you can't really connect with people. But here in Oxford, you kind of don't have like a lot to do by yourself, because the city is not that big. So you always make plans with people from the MBA or people from college or whatever. You're always with someone connected and networking, and that I think is something that if people are looking into the MBAs, they should think about that.
Definitely, definitely. And my girlfriend's actually doing a master in London, and it's happening currently to her. Like when she comes to Oxford, she's amazed on how we are closely connected, how our batch is closely connected, and I personally am connected to my college as well.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas she can't connect with her classmates the same way, and she's living in a really good place in London.
Yeah. 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 That's. I totally agree. When it's the difference between an immersive experience in a very close knit college community setting compared to a very big city college program that it's just you go to class, you'll see your classmates in class, but you might go out for drinks or something with one classmate, but that's about it. It's not, you're not constantly looking for activities to do with a bunch of classmates like people at Oxford. I think that's. I would love to. If I were to do an MBA, I would definitely go to a close knit community. In a smaller, college cities that are built around the schools.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
What's your typical day then? What's it like? You guys wake up. What time do you wake up? What do you do in the morning? It's just. I mean, draw us a picture.
So for me, I wake up at 7:30, 7:40. I like to do some stretching and yoga in the morning. So I do that for about 20 minutes. Take a shower, have breakfast, and you have to be here 8:30 for classes. So cycling is about 10 minutes away, and I live the furthest, like college-wise. Some people live a bit further, but it would be like 15 minutes cycling. So it's not that far. It's like I am already used to it, and I feel very weird out how in Seoul, where I was for Christmas, I would take 40 minutes to get anywhere. It seems such a waste of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like anywhere you go, it's 20-minute walking or 10 minutes cycling at best. So we have full days of class sometimes, and when we don't, which is Wednesday, when we don't have classes, we have either careers, skill workshops, or group meetings, projects. We have a lot of talks going on, and also the Oxford Union is pretty strong. I feel like most people kind of know about the union. If you don't, check it out on YouTube. We have Gandalf, Ian
Magellan, yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, he came here last year, and it was great. We actually had Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad this Monday here.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's amazing. We had so many people talking about different issues, and if you're interested, definitely is something that adds to your student life.
What else do you guys do? I mean, do you guys what are the parties like at Oxford?
Well, we're Brazilian, right?
Yeah, I know, man.
Music, basically electronic music.
Okay.
And there are some. Actually, the nightclubs are not that great because these are more mostly made for undergrads.
Mm-hmm.
And due to European, there's a legal treaty in Europe called the Bologna Treaty.
Mm-hmm.
Basically allows really young undergrads to cut 1 year and go straight to master's degree. So even masters.
They're pretty young.
They're pretty young. So, the best place for you to hang out, in my opinion, are pubs. There are many great pubs. There's one pub here called the Turf Tavern, which arguably is the oldest in town. It has 1,000 years.
Wow.
And they have a sign right at the entrance saying, "Here is the place where Bill Clinton, quote, did not inhale illegal substances in the 60s.
That's where it was. Wow. The tavern.
Yeah, Turf Tavern.
Yeah.
And you get 3 or 4 pubs that claim to be the oldest. And this city is pretty old. It has literally more than 1,000 years. The first exchange student was a Danish prince in the 12th century. So
wow.
Unimaginable.
Wow. Yeah, even J.R. Tolkien, I feel he used to hang out in one of the pubs. I think it's called the Eagle's Child or something.
Yeah.
So you know that a lot of really important people came to Oxford, but they actually hang out in the same pubs that you're gonna be in. So it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And well, you can always like go to a nice restaurant, go in parks. There are many beautiful parks around. It's really like a city full of flowers and nature. Those old people from the past really praised calm landscapes to think and reflect. So even inside colleges and outside public parks, they are beautiful. Well, I definitely recommend sightseeing around.
Yeah, it sounds like a place I would love to just retire. It sounds
Yeah.
really, really like I've always I grew up in Los Angeles, and then I live in São Paulo, so like my whole life has been buildings. When I visited my friend in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, which is a very countryside type of a small city, I fell in love. I was like, no, this is what I want. I want like a peaceful place with a college life type of vibe to it, where I can go to a pub and drink and maybe watch some games. But you have that jovial feeling because you have a lot of college students who are energetic and lively, and rowdy. But at the same time, you have the calm of these beautiful landscapes. I can only imagine how it must feel like. Speaking of Lord of the Rings, you know that scene in the beginning of the first movie when the camera pans and you see Frodo sitting under a tree reading a book right before he meets with Gandalf?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in the middle of the forest. Like that's the scenario I imagine. I'm imagining right now of Oxford, like the campus. And that's what I want for like when I'm old and I'm about to, retire. I just kind of want to do that, just relax on a school campus, beautiful school campus. Have I don't know. I think I need to visit. Yeah, I need to visit
Well,
Oxford.
Yeah, Oxford, the closest place to that that I've seen.
Really?
Honestly.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
lying.
No, I'm gonna right after this. I'm gonna Google search like Oxford campus and just look at all of the pictures and yeah, if that's the place, then that's the place, man. Yeah, because I love pubs. I love beer. And pubs are for the older crowd, a little bit older crowd, not for the the undergrads. But it's I don't know. It sounds like a really nice place to live, man. Very
It
nice.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not having to drive, it's a plus.
Yeah.
Plus.
Oh, tell me. Oh, duh, don't even get me. I live in São Paulo, man. This is crazy traffic. On Sunday afternoons, it's worse. Oh, I don't know. I'm done with traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what my feelings towards coming here. I was like, I am done with traffic.
Yeah. No more wasting
It
time.
definitely. Yeah, absolutely. It definitely ties back to the point that it's really worth it to visit the place before making your mind on your top school.
And don't get too like how to say stuck on rankings because they don't really mean that much.
I hate
Yeah,
rankings.
I got a strong point against rankings now, because when the one I mostly followed was the Financial Times one, and then I realized that the weighted average salary, had a huge impact on ranking position, and then actually it really is connected to the fact that. Who pay the companies that pays MBA candidates really well are companies from financial services and consulting firms.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to cope with the business goals or the way it's done, I would strongly recommend not to go to schools that are specialized in providing like workforce for these firms.
Mm-hmm.
And Oxford is a good example. Like we, in order to face those, to put in practice our speech, like tackling pressing issues on humankind, and so think about social impact, environmental change, and so forth. The school, the SAID Business School, sacrifices a lot of this item, post MBA salary, because come on, it's not that profitable. You can make the same profit as financial services, obviously. So we have many classmates that, yes, they come from financial services and consulting, and they are going back to these firms.
Yeah.
But we are not specialized on it. That's why we are so diverse. So one of the coolest persons here is like a leadership instructor and a mountain guide in India. And he's from he had his education in Singapore, and he's from Mauritius Island.
Wow.
And he rides a one-wheel bike,
A motorcycle.
a motorcycle throughout across the city. And like one of the most cleverest people I knew here, and he comes from a non-traditional background. I think these kind of people enriches the experience a lot, and you won't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
And from how I see it, Oxford is like the best schools in the world that can provide you with that experience and some other experiences as well.
Yeah.
The traditional ones and the non-traditional ones.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to that, we have 330 in our cohort, and a third is interested in social impact from diverse backgrounds. So, like, that's really cool. I don't think that it's that high in most schools. So.
Yeah, they've done stuff like that. Like people work in Rwanda in middle of like war. People from Latin America, from places I've never heard of, and people with really good stories, and people you want to hang out with. That's the point, right?
Yep. Definitely. Yeah, I think I mean, as far as education wise, if you take the top 20, 25 schools, MBA programs, this is, my opinion, but you get as far as academic, you get very similar quality instructions and knowledge, but what separates what separates one school from the other is actually the experience. I've always been against rankings. I'm not a fan of rankings. I really dislike when people ask me, oh, well, did you see the rankings? I'm like, no, I don't care about the rankings. If you take top 3 schools, mostly students are going after the top 3 for brand name more than anything else. But if you're really looking for a life-changing experience, I always tell my candidates to look into smaller schools, like just don't look at the brand name or the ranking, but look at the students. Go check out the campus, go talk to students, really get down to earth, be grounded. Don't have this fantasy, this illusion in your mind of what it might be. Go there and check it out for yourself. And like Vitor stepped on campus of Oxford and just looked around and go, this is where I need to be. That's
yeah,
amazing.
absolutely right. I couldn't say better. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I'm still curious though. I would like to know a little bit about this startup that you're working on. I'm always into the whole, I love tech stuff. I have a failed startup in education. It never really got off. It didn't launch, mainly because I had problems with a couple of our partners. And one of our sponsors wanted to include a political party, and I backed out because I was like, I don't want to be associated with any politicians, especially in Brazil. I wonder why. But I'm very interested in hearing about your startup, Vitor.
So you mentioned our politics. Another problem we have in Brazil is the exclusion of many communities in the suburbs. So specifically in Rio, different than some cities, the nice places, the places we see in television, well, not the killing, but like the theoretical points, spots, they stay in one side of the city, and whereas the other side of the city is like forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
So I myself have always lived in the nice part, and one, my partners and I were actually thinking about establishing a blockchain school in one of those communities, because kids leave school at noon and then they stay on the streets because their parents only arrive home late at night.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really risky for them, because the incentives are for them to go into criminal activities, or just like developing addictions and so forth, or like just bad habits.
Yeah, drug trafficking, but you know.
Exactly. Yeah, you know what I mean. So, well, we started digging into it, and so we started interviewing locals, and when we posed the simple question like, "Hey, what's your worst problem here? Tell me how's your typical day, and what is your worst problem?" They said, "We were expecting to hear, oh, our kids have terrible incentives," but actually, what we heard was, we don't have a place to pay our bill. It's really risky to go outside the community to a bank agency, and so we accumulate many bills. Sometimes one or two are late, and in order to so it's worth it to pay a bus ticket and pay it. We pay them.
Okay.
So we established, because these communities basically are dominated by what we call local authorities, but in Rio we call them militia or drug dealing factions.
Mm-hmm.
So insurance companies can cover banking activities as usual.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I was a corporate lawyer for some years ago. I like to say that it was in another life, but we were able to spot a space in regulation that would allow us to work doing really simple banking activities without like depositing huge amount of money to the central bank to become essentially a bank, a financial institution.
Right.
So in August 2016, we intermediate the first payment of bills and invoices. Like we paid like $100, $10, and now we are transacting $200,000 a month. This is data from December, and we have already surpassed it in January. We probably get to $250,000. So basically, what we do is we provide people with no access to banking services, with really basic services. We provide them with credit. Actually, we don't lend them money because we think we wouldn't help them if we did.
Mm-hmm.
But we provide them with credit ratings so they can look for credit elsewhere. But many things. We can talk about this later. I'm passionate about this, and I have real trouble summarizing stuff.
Yeah, no problem. That's great, though. I think I get the sense of it. It's kind of like you're intermediating the bank work, some of the bank's basic services to the people who don't have better access to these banks. So you're functioning kind of like the bridge. And what I'm concerned about is, so when they pay their bills to you, they pay it in cash. So how do you get the cash out?
So this is what we call in the business school stakeholder management.
Yeah.
So inside communities, there's no problem whatsoever with violence, like with crimes. There are no crimes except drug dealing inside communities,
Mm-hmm.
because the rules are really, really straightforward.
Yes.
The problem is once you have to go out.
Yeah.
So I can tell you about our MVP, which is shocking, but it's true. Like during our MVP, we would take like $10,000 a day and give it to one of our employees called Isaías. Isaías was a 17-year-old kid that only did transportation of money.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like he hated school. He skipped school all the time. It was a hassle, but he was really really honest and a really good kid. Um, he did was he took the money. He in a really unsuspicious bag, and took it to bank agencies in surrounding neighborhoods. He would take what do we call it in I don't have a name for it in English.
What
It's
is
so
it in
typical.
Portuguese?
Like uma condução, carro, uma lotação.
Lotação? Yeah, he would take like a community bus or, one of those, just...
Actually, it was a car.
Okay, it was a car, okay.
That someone used to transport people because public transportation wouldn't fit the purpose.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and he would like got into the agency, climbed the stairs to talk to the manager, throw the money in the manager's on the manager's table and say, "Hey, can you count it, please?" And deposit on the bank's bank account.
So he was the runner.
Yeah, and he would more than once tell us, "Hey, you're putting me in trouble here. You are counting the money wrong. Please, here's the excess." And he would give us back the excess. So,
wow.
Yeah, because we were in a rush, we were validating a product. Was crazy time.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we managed it was we had to have good relationship with all criminal factions that operate there. Was 5 in a 200,000 people environment, and the police who run some parts of it, like run informally, right, as like militia, really.
Yeah.
So this is the part who gets sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
What we did was, hey, our strategy was to become essential to the community, and develop a system that would oblige us to provide information to central bank almost in real time.
Wow.
So the drug dealers and like bad guys wouldn't be incentivized to use our system to do money laundering.
Mm-hmm.
So we were protected from that,
Mm-hmm.
and they wouldn't throw us out the communities because we were helping people and not harming anyone.
Right.
We became a must-have.
Right.
For everyone,
Right, that's very interesting. For those listeners who aren't, who are kind of like they don't understand what's going on, think of it as like territory gang wars, in the sense where you might have a drug dealer covering a certain amount of territory. Right next to that, you have a militia covering that territory. You don't cross, you don't go over. And if you do, you fall under the rules of the new territory, and you're susceptible to violence or to robbery, to theft. So having a runner like Isaías was his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, having a runner like Isaías, who is, not only trustworthy, but who's able to kind of just sneak through, that's with a backpack full of cash. Yeah, it sounds like one of those. It sounds like a really, really interesting Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah. Actually, we have a private joke.
Yeah.
That if everything goes wrong, we could at least make a movie on Banco Maré.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have really, really, really like counterintuitive stories.
Oh no, I can imagine, man. I mean, I can just imagine. I can imagine he just one of your runners getting caught in a crossfire between a gunfight or something between the police and the gang of another territory, and he had to, for those of you who are not from, a lot of my listeners are from India, and I'm sure that India has some sort of version of their own of these troubles, and that's kind of why it's kind of I love it when students really want to have a positive impact on their communities. The world is not a long road of strip malls like the USA. USA is completely different apart from they live in a different reality than the rest of the world. It's just it's very, very different in I think it's really important that we do our part. If we're not making the lives of other people better, then we're wasting our time here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I can say just a small space here to talk about Oxford SAID again. We are supported by Skoll Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
which was founded by uh, one of the founders of eBay, and like one of the main contributors are Reid Hoffman and other businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are exclusively devoted to embed the social concerns and environmental concerns into our curriculum and our extracurriculum activities.
Mm-hmm.
So, if an MBA candidate wants to, if an MBA applicant wants to like have impact in that sense, like make money, but have a sustainable business in every sense, I would advise you strongly to come to pay Said a visit.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you have incentivizing programs like that, it just makes it I mean, you know, one of the things I think, you know, and I've worked in this, I work closely with a couple of NGOs and stuff, and one of the things I find it very interesting is that it's really hard to get funding, no matter how well of a good, how good your intentions are. It's so hard to get funding. It's easier. It's literally easier today, this day and age, to get funding because I want to create an app. It's a video game for kids that's gonna get them addicted. I can easily get $1 million for that. Much easier than if I say I want to build a well near towns that don't have, you know, drinkable water. You know that they have where citizens have to walk 8 kilometers to get drinkable water. I mean, it's crazy. You know, it's all about profit. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're gonna get into so many different things. We definitely need to talk about this stuff, Vitor, you and I. Just, you know, if you're ever in São Paulo or if I'm ever in Oxford at a pub, we can drink away and talk about the woes of technology and a little bit of the hypocrisy that goes on. But yes, I think you guys are doing the right thing, really pushing for community values and impact. So that's commendable.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I don't think it's like hard to start.
Yeah.
It's the only difference between doing something and not doing something is just doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just start.
Execution.
I mean, yeah. And like we have a saying, and I had a saying in my previous job that was like, it's better to do an imperfect thing than don't do a perfect thing.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
In Portuguese, it sounds great. In English, it sounds like just easy.
Yes. But
yeah, like just start. Like don't think about like the best way to do it. Just do it. It's better than staying idle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
try it. Keep trying.
Yeah.
See how it works. See how you can improve it further. And like anything from like planting some flowers in your neighborhood garden, to fixing a warning to people don't throw trash in a place where you don't think it's supposed to be trash on. You know, it's like simple stuff. Like once you start, you get momentum, and then you'll be easier to do more and more and more and more. And MBA admission teams always look for international people, that is people that have dual nationality or have lived abroad, because it's a good proxy for being open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
People who is activist on something, no matter what, like you donate to an entity, you actually do volunteer work. If it's international, it counts for both topics. And if you like lead a movement, if you happen to lead something, then it's an additional point for leadership and determination and power of will. So like doing good stuff, it's actually good for you individually as well.
True.
You know?
True. Yeah, I always suggest students, you know, who are, and anytime someone comes to me who's on the wall about a project, who's not sure, and when people tell me, I'm thinking about doing this, I tell them, look, very first thing you need to do is go volunteer at an elderly home, at a home for the elderly, at a retirement home. No, really, volunteer one day there and talk to the old people, and you're gonna see that 89% of them are gonna talk about one thing, which is called regret. Regret of not having done something. It's never about success. It's always about, I wish I had done that. And when you walk out of that veteran home, you know, almost everybody who has actually taken my advice, they've actually started. And it's incredible because that's the one thing you can't change is you can't go back in time and do it over, It's crazy.
Yeah. That is really interesting. That's a good tip.
It is. Yeah. I mean, you guys can try to implement that too. I mean, if you have a friend who's like on the wall or something, I'm thinking about it. Go, okay, sure. Let's go one day. Let's go volunteer at a veteran home. Just sit there and talk to the old people, and they're gonna, it's gonna impact them. They're gonna be like, wow, all they do, like, you get this guy who was a successful businessman who's in his senior years, his lost all his money. He doesn't care about that. What he cares about is what I could have done differently. And then that just stays inside you. You're like, I don't want to die like that,
Yeah, and you only learn what you're supposed to be doing if you have tried options.
True.
I think we choose what we're supposed to do by elimination.
Yeah.
Not by, we
trial and error.
Yeah.
Trial and error. You're absolutely right, Vitor. Well, Vitor, Yuri, I want to thank you both so much. We're a little bit past our time here, and I don't want to take up any more of your time from the beautiful Oxford setting that you guys have there. I'm feeling a little bit jealous.
You're invited.
But yes, I know. But yeah, I'd love to go, and I really hope I can make it sometime in the next 2 years or so. I am planning an international trip, mainly for the consulting stuff, but we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, do you guys want to shout out to any one of your alumni, or not alumni, but any of your students or teachers or people who have made an impact on you, who might be listening in here? Do you want to go, if you want to say hi, this is your chance.
I just want to, I don't know, maybe say that I appreciate all the diversity and the background, and also, just people being so open to help you. So I am feeling very grateful for the past 4 months here, and thank you.
Thank you, people at Oxford SAID, everybody there, staff, faculty, teachers, and students. Awesome. What about you, Vitor?
Matteo, there are many things I would like to say.
Yeah.
I would like to encourage your audience to think about the MBA not as a salary lever, but as a sabbatical period devoted exclusively to self-improvement, which is something that you lead not only to professional success, including money, but like conscience of how happy you can be doing what you're supposed to do. So it's like, yes, competent people. It's really good to be among competent people and to be competent, but what's the point of being really good and executing stuff if you're not executing what you want? So to face the MBA as if it was an opportunity to work on yourself. So like your job is to dedicate to yourself, and because actually, to be honest, you can learn finance, accounting, economics using Coursera, EDX, or YouTube, or Khan Academy.
Yeah.
The MBA is not about these core disciplines. It is about like connecting people, connecting ideas in your head, and like discovering what you didn't know, what were the prejudices you had that you only discover once you lose them. So this is about like going step further in your maturing process. I'd like to. There's no other master that would give you that.
That's absolutely true.
So that's my message. Sorry for taking too long to say it.
No, not at all. That was amazing. That was great, man. Spoken like a true Oxford SAID student.
Yeah, yeah, very prolix. Is that
Well, Victor and Yuri, thank you guys so much. I wish you guys an amazing rest of your MBA program. I really hope that our paths cross again and we can sit down and chat more and catch up on things. And in the meantime, well, tune in to the MBA Wire. Citizens, this is Mateo Chang signing off. I will catch you guys next time on the MBA Wire.